Welcome to Rawsko Squeezoff Sports Podcast, world's foremost authority on all things that matter. Just a dude riding around the vehicle most of the time, talking about sports and all other things under the sun. Also, one half of the famed show on the go podcast and review show as well. Okay, let me jump right into it. Be very quick. What I want to touch base on is what makes a great quarterback. Does championships make a great quarterback? We call Tom Brady the GOAT because he has 7 championships. Prior to him, we called Joe Montana the GOAT because he had 4 championships. I don't know as much if we ever called Terry Bradshaw the GOAT, even though he had 4 championships. Maybe because they were the epitome of 3 yards in a cloud of dust. So they didn't really focus on passing, even though he did have one year where he won a MVP. The reason for my focus is Lamar Jackson, as we all know, might win his 3rd MVP. He has not won a championship, and to be honest, he hasn't had the most postseason success. I myself believe he's a better quarterback than Josh Allen, but I had a thought today before they played this game today between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills. If Josh Allen won today against the Kansas City Chiefs and went to the Super Bowl, and let's just say he won the Super Bowl, even if he wasn't spectacular, I believe it's going to be a consensus that he is now a much better quarterback than Lamar Jackson. I mean, let's just think about who we think are better quarterbacks than Lamar Jackson in the league. I don't believe many people think Stafford, but I believe quite a few would take Stafford over Lamar just because he had some postseason success with the LA Rams. He didn't have any with Detroit, but with the LA Rams, he did win a Super Bowl. I believe some people would rather have Joe Burrow because he does put up stats with his, as they call it, team of Avengers. Chase Daniel. He has Chase Daniels as the running back, but he has Jamar Chase as receiver. Who is probably the best in the league last year. He's right up there with Jefferson. I mean, granted, it's hard to believe those guys were all teammates at one time. With this ton of talented receivers, he has the ability to put up a lot of numbers. And then the fact that he beat Allen at one time, and he's beaten Mahomes once at Arrowhead and went to a Super Bowl, even though he lost. So because of his postseason success, once really, or I should say twice, there were 2 separate years when he beat those quarterbacks, some people would rather have him than Lamar. Some people would have Allen over Lamar because I guess Allen has beaten Lamar twice now, and I mean in the playoffs, and he's had some really good games even though he's lost against Kansas City. And if he wins now, even though he has no hardware as far as MVP, which he has a possibility of getting this year, I think a lot of people are going to say he is better than Lamar. And I think people will say he's better than Lamar as of now because he beat Lamar. He did not have a better game than Lamar last week, I don't believe. Well, he didn't have the turnovers. So Lamar does have 2 turnovers that game. That was the only game in the 2024-2025 season where Lamar had 2 turnovers. And I guess that is enough to say, well, you blew it, buddy. You blew it. And even though Allen played a pedestrian passing game, he didn't have a turnover. He did run 2 short touchdowns. His running was very key to the game, getting first downs on 4th down and getting touchdowns. So I guess that makes him better than Lamar at this point to some people. The whole point of this conversation is what makes a quarterback great. I tried to look back at some of the great quarterbacks who never won a Super Bowl. We always say Dan Marino. Dan Marino made it to 1 Super Bowl his second year, never made it back again, did not have much postseason success, but had all the statistics you could ever want at the time when he played, when the league was mainly a 3 yards in a cloud of dust league. He put up 5,000 yards. He repeatedly put up over 4,000 yards. He had a lot of regular season success, did not have postseason success. Fran Tarkenton went to 3 Super Bowls, did not win one. Jim Kelly went to 4 straight Super Bowls. And just to show you how important those 4, if Jim Kelly had 4 more wins, we might be talking about him as the GOAT right now, because he would have won 4 consecutive Super Bowls. They'd still be singing his praise right now, saying no one else can win 4 consecutive Super Bowls. But he made it to 4 Super Bowls. He did not win any of them, and he's largely forgotten. I'm pretty sure kids under 30 have no idea who Jim Kelly is. Warren Moon put up a lot of statistics between the USFL and the NFL. Never made it to the Super Bowl. All those stats, all those yards, all those touchdowns, people don't talk about them. Dan Fouts, Air Coryell, put up a ton of numbers. I think he led the league in passing yardage 3 times in a row, maybe 4 seasons straight. And because, once again, did not have the great postseason success, did not win a Super Bowl, he's not talked about now. So we still bring up Terry Bradshaw, who had pedestrian passing numbers compared to the guys I'm naming, but he had 4 Super Bowls. Joe Montana, I think he won the MVP twice, so he had 2 MVPs, and he won 4 Super Bowls. Some people still consider him the best quarterback of all time, and he was known for being Joe Cool, very clutch. Ken Anderson took 2 teams to the Super Bowl as well. The Cincinnati Bengals at that. And had a bunch of numbers as well. Did not win. Phillip Rivers, very competitive year in, year out. Did not win once again. Donovan McNabb went to a Super Bowl. Went to, I think, 5 NFC championship games with Andy Reid in Philadelphia. No one talks about him anymore. If he would have won a Super Bowl or 2, we might think about him differently. Randall Cunningham had some good years. Bernie Kosar made it to a couple of AFC championship games. Was beaten by John Elway with the Denver Broncos, I think, every time that he made it to a AFC championship game. And so my point for this conversation is, I think that even Lamar may go to the top of the list of quarterbacks who never won. But if he never wins a Super Bowl, and especially if he never gets there, he runs a chance of actually being forgotten. We don't talk about a lot of these guys. We don't talk about Jim Kelly. And Jim Kelly made it to 4 straight Super Bowls. Now, people my age, one of them upper 40s, pushing a half a century, I remember Jim Kelly. I remember how good that K-gun offense was. I remember them going every year and thinking they had a chance to win, and then them getting the doors blown off of them. I think 3 of the 4 Super Bowls, and one, the kick went wide left, I believe. That could have, tied the game against the Giants. And because he didn't win, Jim Kelly, largely forgotten. So my whole point of this conversation is, Josh Allen is about to probably be elevated above Lamar if he wins today, if he beats Mahomes. And I'm just saying, that's pretty amazing that we put everything on winning. Drew Brees, we talk about him because he put up great numbers. He had number 5,000. I think he has the most 5,000 yard seasons. I think 4 of them. But he won 1 Super Bowl. And because he won that 1 Super Bowl, he's a Super Bowl winner. That puts you in a whole different category. If I almost need to Google who are the best quarterbacks, let me just Google it. I wonder what it would actually tell me. I would love to know who are the top 15 best quarterbacks in NFL history. Let's just see what pops up just on a basic Google search to see what pops up. So, of course, Tom Brady, because of his Super Bowl wins. Joe Montana, because of his Super Bowl wins. Peyton Manning pops up because he is the only 5-time NFL MVP, but he does have the 2 Super Bowls, which even though I think he was only 16 and 15 in the playoffs in his career, he was like pretty much a 500 quarterback. But the 2 Super Bowl wins that he kind of backed into winning, I can't say he was the dominant guy. But that changed everything. Johnny Unitas, a 3-time NFL champion because he won an NFL championship. He actually won 2 of those and then 1 Super Bowl as well. And he was a 3-time MVP. They got Otto Graham As the number 5, Otto Graham. This is when they were still calling it the forward pass. And you know why? Because he's a 7-time AAFC NFL champion and a 5-time AAFC NFL MVP. So he dominated the early years of professional football. They have Dan Marino as number 6. So that's the highest rated guy, number 6. Although he never won a Super Bowl, Marino holds numerous passing records and is one of the most prolific passers in NFL history. So they did give him some props, but he's number 5. If Dan Marino had 2 Super Bowls, he'd be higher on this list. Drew Brees is actually number 7. All-time NFL leading in passing yards. Drew Brees also led the Saints to their first Super Bowl in franchise history. Aaron Rodgers, a 4-time MVP, has 1 Super Bowl. John Elway, 2-time Super Bowl champion, dual threat quarterback. Brent Favre, all-time leader in passing touchdowns at the time when he retired. Brent Favre was also a gunslinger mentality. He has 1 Super Bowl. Steve Young is number 11. Steve Young is a 3-time Super Bowl champion, twice as a backup to Joe Montana and once by himself. And he also was a 2-time MVP. Terry Bradshaw is number 12. A 4-time Super Bowl champion, 2-time Super Bowl MVP. Terry Bradshaw led the Pittsburgh Steelers to one of the most dominant dynasties in NFL history. Roger Staubach is number 13, a 2-time Super Bowl champion and Super Bowl MVP. Clutch performer, and he was a clutch performer back in the 70s. Bart Starr, 5-time NFL champion, 2-time Super Bowl MVP, won the first 2 Super Bowls. And Sammy Barr, number 15, 2-time NFL champion. So of course, Patrick Mahomes is going to eclipse this list. I don't know if they considered Patrick Mahomes on this list. As I said, in history, and I guess because he's still making history. But Mahomes will be up this list. He's probably top 5 already. He's probably definitely past Marino. And I wouldn't be surprised. He's right up there with Johnny Unitas, Peyton Manning. Should be past Peyton Manning already, believe it or not. Just because everything is based on winning. That is my point of what I'm saying here. Everybody I named on this list, the only person who did not win a Super Bowl was Dan Marino, and that's because his statistics were so prolific at one point in time. That's why he's on this list. My point is, Lamar, you could win 2 more MVPs. You could win 3. You could win this one this year, which I think you will get it over Allen. You gotta find a way to get a Super Bowl and to have some great playoff moments, because a lot of these guys I named, they don't talk about much. I mean, it just is what it is. They do not talk about them much as far as being the greatest. And I don't know how important that is to you, which I don't think it is. I think you made it pretty clear. You just want to win. And it has eluded you in college. You didn't get a chance to win. You haven't got a chance to win in the pros yet. But another thing I'm scared of is, you know who will jump you? Jaden Daniels may jump you if he was to find a way to win a Super Bowl. If this guy beats Philly today, gets to the Super Bowl, and somehow beats Mahomes or Allen, they jump this guy to the top as a rookie. They jump this guy over top of you because he goes down as a winner, taking a team that was the last in their division, having the 2nd pick in the draft, and going all the way to the Super Bowl would put him above you, Lamar Jackson. So I'm a Lamar fan. I think that's some of the best quarterback play I've ever seen. The ability to run and throw, the ability to buy time, make plays downfield, and I believe he has a chance to become so much more than what he is now, because when I watched the film of the different quarterback guru guys that break it down, he's still missing people. You know, like he's still missing early reads. He's making a lot of things happen with his legs. But once he becomes even more prolific pre-snap, if this guy becomes Peyton Manning pre-snap with his physical attributes and talent and his ability to throw touch passes and to buy time and to get guys open. And should they happen to give him a prolific, I understand he has Zay Flowers. I understand he has, Bateman. But I'm talking about like a 6'3", 6'4" guy. A guy that can go up, a guy that can do a 70-30 guy. Where it's a 50-50 ball for everybody else, but it's an 80-20 or a 70-30 for this particular person. A D Hopkins in his prime. I mean, Moss was probably one of the best ever, but I mean, you won't get that again in life. But if he gets something like that, which I don't think he needs it to win, because Mahomes doesn't need that. But if he should ever have that in his career, amazing. Amazing. And all I'm saying is, I just don't want you to become Jim Kelly. Jim Kelly was great. Nobody talks about him. Dan Marino was great. I mean, great. He's an afterthought. Even though he's made this list, he's an afterthought. You have to win because quarterbacks are not judged on their talent. When you say who's the greatest cornerback, you don't care how much Deion Sanders won. He was the greatest cornerback. When you say who are the greatest linebackers in history, you say Ray Lewis. You say Dick Butkus. You say Lawrence Taylor. You say Junior Seau. You say these names because they were great on the field. When you say great offensive lineman, Anthony Munoz never won a title. He's known as universally as the best lineman. Jonathan Ogden, these guys are known as great offensive linemen. These are Hall of Famers. Joe Thomas from Cleveland, Hall of Famer, never winning anything because their positions are not based upon winning. Their talent is based upon their talent and their performance. Randy Moss is known as probably the second or third best wide receiver in NFL history. And in my opinion, he could have been the best if he had a Hall of Fame quarterback his whole career like Jerry Rice did. If he had 10 years of Tom Brady like Jerry Rice had 15 years of Joe Montana, Steve Young, and then Rich Gannon, who was an NFL MVP as well. If he had that, the numbers he might have put up might have been astronomical. But he's still judged as a great receiver because of his talent and his ability. But as a quarterback, you must have the wins because Tom Brady, his talent was his mind and his ability and his fortitude and his ability to will teams to win. Didn't run anywhere. He didn't have the greatest arm. He was accurate and he had great decision making. Made timely plays all the time. So all I'm saying is, Lamar, in order for you to climb this, it's not important for you to climb to the top. I just don't want you to be forgotten. If you were a Jim Kelly Buffalo Bills fan in the late 80s, early 90s, it's much forgotten now. A generation has passed. What they say, generations every 40 years, will be forgotten. Nobody talks about Otto Graham anymore, but he's still on this list because of his championships. Bart Starr because of his championships. So they'll stand the test of time because they won. Who are the great quarterbacks of the earlier eras who didn't win that we still talk about? So all I'm saying, Lamar, you can put up all these individual numbers, and if you don't win, we're going to forget about you, buddy. So please find a way to win. Keep getting better. I hope you keep your offensive coordinator because that's also a key to being great is the continuity on offense that you had. I believe you can build and get even better. You've improved so much the last 2 years. I think if you have a third year of Todd Monken, you can get even better again. But you got to find a way to get your team to the Super Bowl next year, the year after. And if you can string a few together, then you have a honestly, I believe if Lamar didn't win next year, it's just my opinion, but still was right in the MVP voting. Let's say he wins it this year. In the MVP voting next year, doesn't win it. Does not win the playoffs again. But then let's say the very next year, he wins and he wins 3 straight NFL Super Bowls. Not an MVP, just Super Bowls. Depending on what happens with Mahomes prior to that, I think Lamar's right there in the top 5 of all time. Because his regular season is warranting that. He's the best on the field. He's the best in most games. He doesn't have the winning trend in the playoffs. And it's not even just playoffs. Because like I said, Jim Kelly got to the Super Bowl 4 times. He played great until he got to the Super Bowl. He did not win in any of the 4 Super Bowls, and he is largely forgotten. So that's all I have today. Just want to bring that to you. Rawsko Squeezoff, sports podcast, world's foremost authority on all things that matter. Just a dude that's talking about everything under the sun for the most part. Usually riding around, but sometimes I'm not. Come on, Lamar. This is motivational to you, man. And I believe you're going to do it anyway. I don't think you need me. You've showed me that you're willing to improve and get better. I just need you to find a way to get with your coaching and your staff and your team and get a win. Get those wins in the playoffs because the regular season is starting to become white noise. It's starting not to be necessary, not to mean anything. You know, you become the Buffalo Bills, like I said, with the Jim Kelly days. Nobody really talks about them. And they were the best thing in sports for like 4 years straight. And then boom, they were gone, and they had no hardware. And without that hardware, they become forgotten. You gotta look them up. You gotta Google them. For you young people, Google the Buffalo Bills. They got it. In fact, I think they got it's either a Prime, Amazon Prime, or a Netflix series on them. Little special on them. Breaking down how that was those 4 years. But either way, once again, Rawsko Squeezoff Sports Podcast. Your boy Rawsko Squeezoff, world's foremost authority on all things that matter. I plan on coming to you more often. I know I said all the time, but it's a lot of things I want to get to you about. Boxing again. Oh my, you know how I feel about boxing. We're getting into some basketball, and we still got a lot more football to talk before the Super Bowl. Once again, world's foremost authority on all things that matter. Your boy Rawsko Squeezoff, Rawsko Squeezoff Sports Podcast. Till next time, peace.